noted, and I call the member for Goldstein.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, the member for Fremantle and I may share the same surname. I may occasionally joke that he is my cousin, since apparently you can go back just about any generation now and claim cousins, as the member has accused me of at times in the past. But I can sure as hell tell you we do not share the same views on the future of our great country. And I say that because I have never heard so much rubbish as we just heard from the member for Fremantle. Why is the Australian Labor Party, Deputy Speaker, opposed to the future? Why are they so anti-science, so anti-technology and so anti the potential of what we can do for this great country? Now, Deputy Speaker, we have an enormous challenge in confronting the transition of our energy market. We have a massive challenge in terms of the transition of our energy market. And why you would close down viable technologies, even a discussion, even a consultation, even a pathway about what we could do to deliver a lower carbon future, because they are so anti-science that they would shut down a pathway or discussion around one energy generation model, is simply absurd. But it's what we come to expect of the Australian Labor Party, because they're anti-science. They're not interested in technological solutions. The only thing they're interested in, and of course the minister made this point in question time today, is all they want are new taxes. They love new taxes because they don't see the solution to our challenges around climate change, around reducing our emissions, around transitioning our energy grid through the prism of what we can build for the future. They put it on the basis of how they can tax it for themselves. No answers, no solutions. That's why they sit on the other side of this chamber. And what we got from this report, expertly led by the wonderful member for Fairfax, was a good and serious consideration of the important issues that we need to discuss if we are to consider nuclear energy. Labor's answer is simply to dissent and say, no go. We're working with the community, to make sure that we can have viable options to consider the future generation challenge that Australia needs. And it actually came back with a series of expert recommendations, which I think are an excellent consideration and should be fully supported and endorsed. The member for Fremantle again indulges himself in throwing out propositions in his anti-science crusade and anti-science agenda. And some of us are going to stand by the science, stand by the technology and stand by the ideas that will help build the future of this country. And if you want to stay, Member Fremantle, on your continued anti-science, anti-technology, anti-future agenda, then I just hope that the good people of the electorate of Fremantle know the consequences of your anti-science, anti-technology and anti-future agenda, because we are about the future on this side of the chamber. And so what are we doing? We're looking at making sure that there is a serious consideration of different options of lower emissions technology to generate future energy investment. And of course, it has to be done strategically in making sure that we take the Australian community with us. We agree fundamentally that old school reactors that have created problems in the past, that have low-grade technology with low-grade regulation that cause or put to risk the serious challenges or environmental or human health, should not be considered. We start from that very basic proposition. That's what this report proposes as well. But when it comes to new technology and new innovation, the merits of proposals should be properly considered and not just ruled out like the anti-science, anti-technology, anti-future member for Fremantle and many members of the Labor Party on the other side of the chamber, and the Greens, mind you. I mean, if they really believe a lot of their rhetoric, then they should be having a proper discussion about technology solutions, and they should not be having a closed mind. The member for Fremantle is asking what it is I'm calling. I'm calling you technology bigots. You have a closed mind.
Order.
Technology bigots about the future of this country and what can be achieved through things like a discussion around nuclear power. And what we need to make sure we have is the regulations in place so that we can fully consider it. What we need to make sure we have in place is assistance and development of proposals by ANSTO to make sure that they can fully consider it. So there's a proper assessment about the viability of making sure if we're going to go down the pathway to nuclear power. We've had to have a discussion, and the committee made a particular recommendation around commissioning the Productivity Commission or other equivalent expert reviewer to undertake an independent assessment to inform the discussion on things like the contribution that can be made by nuclear power. And of course, we also have to make sure that if there is any consideration to the future, that it maintains a moratorium on old, outdated technology that won't be worth any value for the future of the energy grid for this country. But that approach, open-minded, forward-looking, interested in the power of technology to contribute to the future building of this country, led expertly by the member for Fairfax and the committee that he led, is such an important part of this discussion. And the technology bigotry that we hear from the opposition benches is so disappointing but completely unsurprising, because so rarely have we seen an example where there are serious challenges we face. And the Labor Party likes to talk about the challenge of climate change, as I do. But when it comes to it, I look for answers and solutions because I actually take it seriously. No one can look at the challenge of reducing our greenhouse gas emissions while trying to deliver reliable and affordable power to households and then take whole options off the table without any proper consideration of the technological changes which might make them viable. And this is the big part. If the member Fremantle wants to dismiss these important propositions as part of that discussion, then the only people he is selling out are his own constituents and the people of Australia. The only thing he's selling out is the health of our environment and our climate so that he can make partisan political points in this chamber and in the House of Representatives. And that is why so little credence is given to the narrow-minded technology bigotry approach of the Australian Labor Party towards nuclear power. And let's face it, we know that even their own supporters don't agree with them. We had only the CFMEU, MMEU these days, write a letter and make a submission published in the newspapers only recently, talking about why Labor's technology bigotry should end around these issues of nuclear power. Now, and the reality is there are opportunities, there are jobs, depending on what pathway we go down. And when we have members of the Labor Party,
I warn the member for Fremantle.
And when we have the Labor Party and his technology bigotry, his anti-science, anti-technology, anti-future agenda, and those are not just member Fremantle but all other members of the opposition as well, not prepared to look seriously about the challenges and the opportunities that can come out of a discussion around nuclear power, what you're actually seeing is a closed-minded approach. And that's what this report specifically tries to prise open, a serious discussion around the issues. Now, we're actually interested in these challenges around technology in the Goldstein electorate. We're very fortunate that recently the member for Fairfax, who led this important inquiry, came to the Goldstein community to have a discussion with community representatives and people who are interested in this topic on Thursday, the 30th of January 2020. In fact, he did too. And during the committee forum, we had 50 locals who had expressed an interest in the issues of nuclear power and energy generation. And in fact, one of the people who attended, and it was wonderful to see him there, was Ian Hoare-Lacey, who's the senior advisor at London-based World Nuclear Association, who categorically destroyed many of the arguments through simple facts and evidence and reason about the potential safety and technology of the technology and what it can do, and made sure that there was a proper discussion with the member for Fairfax about the complexity of the issues. And sitting behind it more than anything else, when community representatives came forward and they were pro and negative people on the issue, was there were genuine concerns about health and safety and environmental management, around long-term issues around the storage of spent uranium. And what they came forward and said was raise those concerns and put to people the facts, particularly around where storage solutions occur. But the one thing that became abundantly clear was that people's concerns were genuine, but they were often also based on misinformation. And it's a sort of misinformation that we heard from the member for Fremantle, and I've no doubt we'll hear from other members of the Labor Party, which I've no doubt they're always very excited about running a scare campaign. They don't actually like to deal with the facts. And that's going to be our great challenge. How to make sure the misinformation from the Australian Labor Party that leads to scare people, as they so often do, and they have a long path or track record of doing so, does not mislead the Australian people.
Order. Thank you for the contribution from the Wilson